How are we, lads? All right?
All good. All good.
Good. Are you covering our game?
Niche assembly today.
Just the best of us.
Yeah.
Most important.
Well, get on with it. Do you want me to plough on? Okay. It wasn't one of those matches we're going to spend overly long talking about in the history of the game, but upon reflection, have you had any more thoughts about why it worked out the way it did?
Loads, Ali, as you can imagine, like racking my brain because we had a good training week and but herein lies your priority as a coach and as a group on a short turnaround after a poor performance when we spooned some of the opportunities that we had. If you start delving too deep, you take too long to get over it and get on with it. So we haven't delved too deep this week, although, talking about deep, we did have one of the world's leading neuropsychologists come in and do a little interactive presentation for us yesterday, and highlighting our awareness of the effects of oxytocin and dopamine on the effects of your effort and your energy, respectively, which you can create, or not forcibly, but create through meaningful social interactions and inward reflection. So there's some big words for you. So that is quite deep. We've looked into how we can be better, work harder, get tighter, go deeper, as a team and as individuals to get a better performance rather than just look back at why it was so boring. Right, okay.
So who was it? What's his or her name?
My missus told me not to tell you, just in case everyone else. She says, she says, when I come on the phone today, she's like, don't try and be too funny, because you're not. Don't talk about people's injuries, because you neither have that medical experience. And don't talk about the neuropsychologist who I'm currently in love with, who does work with the Special Forces, with the RAF, and the Chief Commander of Space Defence, whatever the fuck that is. As well. I know, lads.
It's something we might need in the near future.
Yeah.
Look at things.
Yes, but there's the little green men. But it's fascinating. This guy's fascinating. So everything that you knew or thought you knew or assume about team, the power of team, the effect of the tightness and the togetherness in the team, to give, to enhance performance, the sum of the parts being greater than the individual, everything you thought you knew about that as an intangible thing, this guy has irrefutable neurological evidence for why it improves performance, and for a group of South Africans who have a disposition to think that all things lovey-dovey is fluffy and forced. Hopefully it opens some of their eyes as to actually there's the science behind it as well.
Okay, and just to be clear, that's off the field as well as on it?
Both.
What he was talking about?
Both.
So the off the field togetherness and teamship, but was he also talking about how you can influence that actually on the pitch or not?
Yeah, both.
Right.
It is an interesting thing, whilst we're on the topic, and I know it's probably not what you want to hear because it's not rugby, but we delved into the topic at the very recent and brand new psychological and in respect to physics study of co-regulation. So if you were to twang an A note on a violin, right, where I'm sat right now, and in the next room, even though you couldn't hear it, due to the vibrations that string resonates at, if there was a violin in that room, that would be vibrating, it would pick up on that vibrations through the wall or whatever it might be. That's just an immaterial object. But if you were to sit and watch a film, and this is proven fact, with someone sat next to you, subconsciously, as the film went on, your respiratory rate and brain waves would synchronise to that person, subconsciously. That's co-regulation. Suffice to say that your skin is not the outside of you. It's just the physical outside, but there are elements to you which can affect people in a chaos theory and Plato physical manner, which is now they're getting into the understanding of that. And if you're able to sync up in a harmonious manner, then obviously you can affect performance. So it's a little bit mind stretching. I think that's the best way to overcome some feelings of frustration is to be curious about how you can be better. And we just opened the minds a little bit yesterday in and around some of these topics, which has got me and got the lads talking about it. There's been certainly a lot more bum taps than there has in recent weeks.
Even the hard nut sappers, they're into it now, are they?
They wouldn't admit to it, would they? But yeah, there's been a few more.
I think you have just become the first ever director of rugby to issue the words Plato physical manner.
I don't know if that. I haven't got that right, but co-regulation is a real thing. You know, like when you walk into, and this is the obvious thing, but part of this body language, but you walk into a room and it be a corporate environment, someone walks in and they're obviously in a stink, you know, or hyper-aggressive, or they've got something in mind, and that affects people around them, doesn't it? Without a word, and I say body language is part of it, but they reckon there's something more. Hence why the skin is not the outside of you, it's just the physical thing that you see. So, if you're aware of that, then your interaction with everyone, those small interactions become more meaningful. Okay,
so in terms of stretching the mind and maybe a little bit of distraction technique from the misery of the match itself,
possibly.
Do you think it served the purpose? And maybe you won't see that till later in the training week or indeed on Friday night.
Only time will tell. I think the time when you stop trying to learn though, and you stop trying to progress, particularly at the start of the week when you can allow yourself to think a bit wider, the time when you start thinking about the job and what we need to do, and potentially that was maybe why, the importance and the focus and the over-focus in this game, there was such a high degree of mistakes and turnovers, both sides. I don't think they'd be proud of the way they played either. So, yeah, I think you got to keep stretching to be better, haven't you? And in doing so, like, I sound like Steve Borthwick here.
I've just come off an hour with Steve Borthwick.
Oh, have you? Oh, wow.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't the full hour, in fact. It wasn't the full hour. Slightly different topics and themes, as you might be aware. In terms of the game, then, do you think there's every chance we'll see something quite different on Friday night?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I hope to think so. We know we're better than that. I'm sure they'd say the same thing. Yes. Like, how could it be? How could it be not any worse? Because I want to recognise their effort and the physicality. That was abundant, and that definitely forced from errors both sides. So I think the commitment was definitely there from both sides, but the execution wasn't. We know that.
Okay, and does it help in a way that obviously there's it's 1 point, so it's almost neither here nor there. It might prove decisive, but from your perspective, you'll be painting the view that it's effectively 0-0. It's double-legged, so let's just wipe that clean and crack on with what we know we're better at.
You probably should have started the meeting yesterday for us, Ali. You would have been more concise than I was with the same sentiment.
Yeah, but I wouldn't have brought Plato in, so that would have been way less interesting. Mate, thank you. I'll let the other boys pile in.
Cheers, mate.
Alex, is there any point where you think, rather than going down this very interesting route, you just strip it back and say, for God's sake, just play as well as you are, you're better than this?
Oh, don't get me wrong, Chris, like, we've had that tough conversation and we've kept the rugby picks very, very simple. But, and that was where we got to by 11:30, the rugby fix, right? There's still 2 or 3 hours of recovery and conversation that you're able to have. Otherwise, they would have been in and out by 9:30, Chris. So we have constantly use those opportunities by way of trying to understand ourselves and performance a little bit more, a little bit greater. Everyone just comes in and talks about the rugby. That's been the traditional sense. I'm not saying look, we're not playing all that well. There's obviously better ways to do it. I get that as well, mate. But I'm striving for something that might just give us the edge down the line that is a little bit different. Otherwise, I'm only going to be as good as everyone else. We're only going to be as good as everyone else. And so to do that, you've got to try and stretch the boundaries a little bit. Is
there any area that you're not prepared to go into to try and help this team? Because in our conversations this season, you seem to have been almost everywhere to look for that 1%, the famous Clyde Woodward 1%.
No, we've looked at many different tools and avenues to the same end, Chris. Like, it's all about performance. But exploring those intangible avenues regarding mentality and areas where people tend to veer away from through fear because it's not the recognised method of doing it and you can't measure it. I've said that before. So we still endeavour to try very hard in the things you can measure. But everyone's at a level at that, as we know. So where do you get the edge? And it's through all the ways and means that we've tried to and will continue to explore until we find things that stick. And we found a few things. I do believe that this guy that I met and the guy in his degree to help us over the next year is going to give us some more tools that we can use moving forward.
Can I just check on Rafi, just to come off the...
Yeah, he's not great, mate. He's not great. So
he's obviously not going to make it. But is it as in not great for a few weeks or?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have the definite answer on that, but he won't make it for a few weeks. I'm hoping it won't be this season, but that's down to the rest of us, isn't it, to make sure it's not.
And Mano to start again?
I could tell him, wouldn't it? He's fit, he's ready to go. He got player's player. Those lads voted for him for some of his involvement, so it'd be tough to leave him on the bench, wouldn't it?
Excellent, thank you very much, mate.
Cheers, Chris.
Hi, Alex.
Hello, mate.
Can I just start? Yeah, good, thank you. Can I just ask you about, something that's in the news today and more general thing in rugby is 20-minute red cards. I don't know if you've seen the World Rugby said they might extend it from Super Rugby. Just what would your thoughts be on that?
Yeah, I think it's probably... what we've seen is, to the large degree, an inconsistency in what contributes to a red card, what the sanctioned red card is. And I believe that's a good thing because issuing red cards changes the game irrevocably, doesn't it? So it had to change, and it was probably a little bit too harsh. And then the refs don't want to be the person who dictates the outcome of the game, but increasingly so they were becoming that. So I understand why they've shifted away from, or at least had certain things that affect the decision and mitigating factors that affect the decision for red card. So, but there's still a lot of grey there, isn't there, between a yellow and a red, and so a 20-minute sanction would affect the game hugely, but not irrevocably. So I think it's probably a good idea. Yeah, I think it's a good idea. Short and the long of it, Ali, you could have answered that for me. Yeah, go for it. 20-minute red card. No, just because you're more succinct than I am.
Just say no.
Do you think, Alex, that you've obviously said there that you think it is a good idea that it could, the game's made a lot of progress in terms of like tackle heights and all that stuff. Do you think that could sort of maybe take that back a step or two or not?
No, probably not, because no one wants to lose anyone for 20 minutes either. I think on average we score about 8 to 9 points. We're up there with the teams that are able to punish other teams just on yellows. Saw from the weekend, I watched that Leicester Claremont game, and it was a bad head collision, wasn't it? And it was out of control. But he's looking at the ball. I don't think it was with malice and intent. Do you know what I mean? And yet, it could have changed the game that through something that wasn't intentional, not with malice. So it gives you that kind of, like I say, an ability to punish grey areas more than the straight the straight black and white of yellow or red. Black and white of yellow or red. Right. Go on,
you obviously had to answer questions about Faf and Lude for a while now, but now that's sort of done and dusted. I just wondered how that affects things for you moving forwards. Obviously, you've got Johnny Hill coming in, who I presume would be pretty much a straight replacement for Lude. I just wondered how, there's potentially freeing up of some money there. How do you think that's going to affect you moving forwards, recruitment-wise?
Not a lot of money, to be honest. They're both marquee players, so it's more about helps the budget, which is always important, isn't it? But no, I think we're. How can you say you're getting someone better than Lou Diego because he's one of the world's best players on his day? But for the purposes of this club and what we're trying to build, the fabric of the North, I'm seeing the slogan behind me. Johnny Hill's from the North. He's EQP and he's younger, so he's a really, really good fit for us moving forward. I think we'll get more. I think we'll get the best out of him. He's already started to peak, hasn't he? So I think we'll get more out of him for all those reasons I've talked about, which happen to be intrinsic motivators for him.
And just lastly from me, obviously the salary cap's gone down. Marquee players is one less. Just wondered how you think that's going to affect the league. It's clear there's maybe less sort of world stars potentially coming in. How do you think that's going to benefit or hinder the Premiership moving forward? You
lose experience, you lose the talent, you lose a bit of X factor potentially, but you gain opportunity for good young English play. You open pathways up for lads that could have been blocked before, and the aim is to make the game a viable, self-supporting business as opposed to the folly of rich philanthropists, which it has been, and so I think the long-term benefits of saving the game and giving the opportunity for young English players definitely outweighs the short-term benefits of having some Galacticos on the field.
On that theme then, do you think it could benefit the English national team and the English pathway in time, because like you say, those guys that might not have had a chance beneath a foreign player could get an opportunity?
Yeah, definitely. It's a double-edged sword, isn't it? Because the higher level you play at, the better competition that you're in, the better players you play with, the faster your rate of growth and improvement. And yet that, so you lose a bit of that, but some of these lads wouldn't get the opportunity anyway. So yeah, I think it'll definitely help the English game, yes.
And just lastly, I don't know if you can say this, would George be your player who'll be outside the cap next season?
No, you can't have that. In recruitment, you can't have someone, unless he's a foreigner as your marquee, you have to have someone who's been in your ranks for over 2 years, just a regulation. So we'll shift somebody else into the cap, which still opens up a bit of money, and we suffer the same challenges as everyone else regarding to having to lose players that we don't want to lose. Unfortunately, that's the real negative. Some lads who are from the area that we just can't afford to keep. It's a real shame. It breaks me up a bit, that.
Thanks for your time.
Cheers, Al.
Alex, how you doing? Liam here, Rugby Pass.
Hi, Liam. You're right.
All good, yeah, all good. I'm just wondering there. You mentioned yourself there. You used the word boring. I'm just wondering, the players themselves, what reaction did they give you about the rugby that they got to play last Saturday? What was their hot take?
Frustrated. Boring's like it's negative connotation. Now, please don't use that. I was like trying to be funny. My missus told me not to be funny. They were frustrated because they weren't able to show their ability, or they felt like they never got going. And that's how it felt from the sideline. The game never got going. A 6-3 scoreline in the past has been very exciting, as we know. We've had a really thrilling game, 0-0 at half time against Bristol, because of the intensity of it. So, but this one at 6-3 wasn't. There was no real sustained pressure. There was only moments of physicality, which highlighted a game of broken play in minimal phases. So that's a better description, I guess. The lads are frustrated. They were frustrated. We had to get over that frustration quickly and understand why they were frustrated. I think
just the reason I asked was the fact that like it was on Channel 4, etc. So it was on free-to-air TV over here in Ireland as well. So it had a wider audience, so to speak, than your traditional just on BT Sports sort of a thing. And the stage was there for you guys to go and perform. What would your message be to people who would be more inclined to say, oh, this Friday night's game, I'll give it a skip and then I'll watch something else? I mean,
don't take that in context to the kind of performance or the spectacle that we're able to put out there. You know, I think Bristol came with a plan, and a good plan as well, because they went away with that 1 point win. I would have much preferred them to run from everywhere. It would, to some degree, play into our hands, give us something. I think the game would come to life, but they didn't come with that plan. They came with a plan to take some of the energy out of the game and give them nothing to hit. So, well done, Bristol. They countered some of our, and in doing so, they countered some of our strength within our kicking game, and our defence countered some of their strength in their attack. So you had a bit of a stalemate, didn't you? Which is what happened. That's that game in context. Look at the Leicester game, the first game on ITV. Nothing short of a brilliant advertisement for rugby and a 30-odd, 20-odd result. So go back a few months, and that's the kind of performance we're able to put out there and want to put out there.
That's good to hear. I mean, fingers crossed it will be an exciting spectacle on Friday. I'm just curious there, you mentioned your missus there again, the 6 in a row. You mentioned her in connection with I've got that correct Japanese thing. How much of an influence is she on you week to week when it comes to rugby?
God, please don't quote her. She kills me. It's only because my lad's on half term and he got up this morning at 6 with me, jumping out of his boots to go to Hull. He went to Hull. I know. You might ask why. There's an aquarium at Hull and he loves sharks, believe it or not. So I rang her up before just to see what his day went like, and I've got a photo of him stood underneath a shark statue with his arms in the air. That's why I mentioned Mrs. and I'm like, I've got to go to the press. She's like, don't do this, don't do that, don't do that. So she's on my mind. That's all. It's not like I go home and ask her about tactics or anything like that. She's a good deflection tactic for me.
Okay, that's good to hear. She's not picking the team. Great stuff. and just with regard to like some of the performances, say from other less noted players. I mean, like the likes of Luke James and these guys. What do you make of their chance to shine coming into this end of season? We're constantly talking every week here about Manu Tulaji, your high profile South African players. You know what I'm saying? Well, what about your Leicester's young players? Is this the stage for them to take it on heading into the rest of the season and really stand up and be counted, given your short number of players as well?
Yeah, he's spot on, Liam. Like, through injury and other things outside the game, we've lost two of our most senior back three players. Up steps Tom Roebuck and Aaron Reid, who are now regular fixtures. Tom's back fit for selection this weekend. These are really exciting young players who score a lot of tries, who were good aerially, and still there's a lot more to come from. Even looking at Aaron's breaks at the weekend, like there was a couple of opportunities where we could have scored in simple 2-on-1s, and it's a different game. So like I know, they want to take this opportunity on this main stage to showcase what they're about at a level that there's only international that's higher. You know what I mean? There's only one place you can go above top European rugby at this level. So if they're excelling here, then they put themselves in that radar for international selection. Surely they are. There's two. Luke, who's another one, stepped out the shadow of his brother. Worked tremendously hard on his high ball, knowing that if he can catch it and there's a bit of space, he's got the magic in his feet to make those kind of breaks, which he did again at the weekend. So that's exciting, and I'm really happy with where we're going with that and where Diggs has gone with that, to be brave and back this young talent, because we want to score tries as much as bang people in defence. I think we've seen that since Christmas in that little run. Less recently so in the last 2 weeks, for granted, but that's not our intent, neither it's our ambition. Yeah, I like that to a Bev Rod at Luced, like he's been brilliant all season. Cobus Visu's come into a bit of form. Yeah, there's some good young talent in the squad, which these kind of experiences are priceless. You know, they're only going to grow through them. And like I say, that's why I'm almost certain, I can almost guarantee that it's going to be a better performance, because they've got a lot of that, whether it be nervousness or mistakes or over-eagerness, they've got it out off the shoulder, got that monkey off the back for this weekend now. I'm sure it's going to be a lot more free-flowing, and the lads will be, and the shackles will be off a bit more.